Hello, my name is Russ Homans. I'm with Phoenix Automation Solutions. We are the master distributor for Renew Electronics products. Today I'd like to go over how we configure the Modbus mapping between a FL50 V2 PLC, and it's got digital I/O modules connected to it, and a FP3070 TNE 7-inch touchscreen. And we'll be connecting these two devices via RS485 2-wire. So the first thing that we want to do is go ahead and configure the FL50 V2. So go ahead to Flexisoft, and we'll create a new project. And the product series here is the Flexilogics, and it's FL50. And the model is an FL50 V2. So go ahead and click OK here. And again, we're going to choose IEC 61131 instead of native ladder for this example. So go ahead and click OK. So the first thing that we want to do is to take a look at our tags database. So what you see here is all of just the system tags. So if we want to hide those, we can just go ahead and click hide system tags. So if we hide the system tags, there's no system tags at this point. But if you look across at these columns, you see that there's no COM1 or COM2. So what's going to happen is once we add our Modbus slave node, we'll have another column here where we can assign tags to those columns. So we'll go ahead and just quickly add our I/O cards by going to I/O allocation and go to expansion. So we can configure just a few of the slots here. So if we double click on here, it's going to open up our configuration wizard. So for slot 1, we can just choose a simple I/O card, a digital I/O card. So we'll just choose FLD 0808R. So once we choose that, we can see that it kind of lets us gives a brief description of what that card is. And if given the choice, we always want to click on this download configuration settings. So with this card, there's no configuration settings. So we'll go to slot 2, and for this we'll choose an analog card. So we'll go ahead and choose FLA 0402U. So that's 4 inputs and 2 outputs. And the inputs and outputs, the analog is configurable. So we definitely want to hit on the download configuration settings here. And we can also go ahead and configure the card. So if we click on configure, you can configure each of the inputs and the outputs according to the type that you need. So for an example, the input channel 1, we can configure it as a 0 to 100 millivolt, 0 to 50 millivolt, 0 to 20 milliamp, 4 to 20 milliamp. If we take a look at an output, one of the outputs on this card, we can also configure those. So we can click on the type, and we can send out a 4 to 20 milliamp or a 0 to 10 volt. So once you configure these, you want to hit this confirm so that it puts it in a list, and you can see that output channel 1 is configured for a 4 to 20 milliamp. So once you're done with that, go ahead and click close, and again make sure that you hit the download configuration settings. For slot 3, we can go ahead and configure it as a load cell module. So we can click on the load cell module and click OK. And here you want to download configuration settings, and you can configure the module as well. So this allows you to choose the analog input range based on the load cell that you're connecting, and just allows you to configure all the load cell settings. So once you're done, go ahead and click confirm and then close. And once you're done with that, you can click OK. And what this is going to do is populate the slots, And it's also going to create tags that are used with those modules based on the modules that you have chosen. So now if we go back to tags, and you can now see that the tag database is populated with slot 1 tags, slot 2 tags, and slot 3 tags. So what we want to do now is go ahead and add our Modbus slave, and what that's going to do is add another column here. So if we go to Network Configuration and we right click anywhere here and click Add, we'll go ahead and click a Modbus RTU unit as slave. So that just adds it. You can configure the baud rate, parity, and all those settings. You can give it a name. So for this example, we could just choose FL50 V2 as the name. You can give it an address. So if you have multiple PLCs, you can have node 1, node 2, node 3, depending on how many slave nodes the master will be talking to. Since we have that, we can go ahead and click Add. So that adds our node here. You can see it. And so now if we go back to the tag database, we can see that we have COM1. So what we can do now is, if we wanted to, you can change the names of all of these registers. They're just default. So slot 1 input, this could be just we can say it's X0 for input 0, and we can call it operator foot pedal or something like that. So we can change these names however we'd like to. So the next thing we can do then, after we've given these all meaningful names, is if you click on this COM1 column, we can give these Modbus addresses. So for the first one, for example, we'll just choose 1. So that's Modbus address 1, 2, 3. And so these are all Boolean addresses, and you can see the data type is Boolean. So as we go down the list, we can see that there's also word addresses. So for word addresses, we would give them holding address, Modbus holding addresses. So for example, we can give it Modbus address 400,001, Modbus address 400,002, 400,003, 400,003, and so on and so forth. So those are for words. Now if we go down the list, we can also see that there are some double words. So for double words, we would give this an address the same way. So for an example, we can give this 400,010. And now if we go to the next one and we say 400,011, it's going to give us an error saying that that address is already mapped. And that's because this address uses 400,010 and 400,011. So for the next one, we can choose 400,012. And it doesn't have a problem with that. So once we have the addressing mapped out the way we want it, we can go ahead and choose export tag. So we want to choose which tags to export. So for this case, we're just going to choose the Modbus assigned addresses. So we'll go ahead and check all the boxes that we want for tags to export. So we've got our tags checked. And the next thing we'll do is right click anywhere in the tag database, and we want to click export. So what this does is it brings up a configuration wizard for the export function, and all we want to do is click on selected export tag list. So it's going to export it to this test.csv directory or file name. You can put this into any directory that you want, but for this case I think the directory is something like program files x86, Renew Electronics, Flexisoft, and it's kind of buried, but we'll leave it as default for now. So we'll just go ahead and click export. Now the tags are exported to that file. So that's all we have to do at this point. So we can go ahead and click close. And what we want to do now is configure the Modbus master on the screen. So we'll start another instance of Flexisoft, and we'll just click on Project, New, and it's a Flexi panel, and the product is FB3070 TNE for this example. Just go ahead and click OK. So now what we can do is just go to the tags, and we'll just go ahead and right click here and say import, and this is the file location where we want to import from. Now when we click import, it's going to look at that file structure, that CSV file structure, and it's going to recognize that it's a Modbus slave, and it's going to then prompt us to say, how do you want to import this as a Modbus slave or as a Modbus master? And it's going to step us through that process here. So we'll go ahead and click import. So now it's saying, do you want this unit to be a master or do you want it to be a slave? So for this case, we want to choose a master. And we have another choice that says 16 words or 1 word. So what this has to do with is how the Modbus master operates. So the Modbus master has the ability to read in 16 registers at a time if 16 registers are assigned in sequence on the slave. But if you don't have 16 registers assigned on the slave, then you have to go ahead and click 1 word. And really the difference between 16 words and 1 word is that if you have 16 or 32 registers on your slave that can be imported, what that does is it imports all 16 words at one time. So it increases the efficiency of the communication. Whereas if it's 1 word, it's going to only bring in 1 word at a time. So if you leave it as 1 word and you have 16 registers that you're bringing in, it would be 16 communication iterations that it would be going through. So for this case, we'll choose 1 word, and we can either bring it in, the destination port as COM1 or COM2. So for this case, we'll just leave it as COM1. So we'll click OK. So now there's an import log and it doesn't look like there's any errors. So we'll go ahead and close this. And we can close the import wizard. And now we can see if we hide the system tags that is imported all of the Modbus registers, and it's also gone ahead and it's automatically created the Modbus master node. So I hope this helps you understand a little bit how the configuration goes between a Modbus slave and a Modbus master.